I had a one-night stand with a stranger. Turns out he's the lead singer of a famous band. The hotel room door clicked shut behind us, the soft sound barely registering as Caleb's hands tangled in my hair, pulling me into a deep, hungry kiss. I leaned into him, matching his intensity, craving more with every passing second. He pulled me back just enough to smirk at me, his lips still brushing against mine. "You sure you don't want to run away now?" I grinned, breathless. If I wanted to run, I'd already be gone. His smirk widened. "So I've managed to charm you after all." "Maybe," I teased, my voice light but laced with anticipation. "But the jury's still out." Caleb chuckled, the sound low and warm as he trailed a hand down my back. "Don't worry, we've got all night. And trust me, nobody escapes my charm." He winked before pulling me into another kiss. This time the kiss was slower, playful at first, a tantalizing game of give and take. But it didn't stay that way for long. The spark between us ignited into something deeper, something we couldn't resist. Caleb's hand slipped around my waist, guiding me towards the bed as the touch sent shivers down my spine. His hands explored with a mix of confidence and tenderness, as if he wanted to memorize every inch of me. I surrendered to the moment, letting the weight of the world fall away. For once there was no hesitation, no fear, only us. That night wasn't just passionate, it was liberating. It was a release of everything we'd both been holding inside. Loneliness, pain, desire. In those hours, nothing else existed. It was raw, intoxicating, and undeniably real. Flashback. A few hours earlier, I sat in my favorite bar, nursing another drink as I observed the world around me. Seeing all these people so full of life made my loneliness feel slightly less. Rarely did I come across someone who intrigued me, someone who, like me, seemed to be escaping their own life. "Need some company? I'm a much better companion than whiskey," someone called out. Turning to my right, I saw him, a young man with a bright, disarming smile, staring right at me. "I don't mind," I replied, intrigued by this hot, mysterious figure. "So, you come here often?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. I nodded. "Almost every day." "And yet you're sitting all alone," he said, feigning shock. "I like my peace," I shrugged. "Most people would call that loneliness," he grinned. I couldn't decide whether to be annoyed or amused. "Why are you trying so hard to be funny?" "I'm not trying," he said, winking. "I am funny." I couldn't help but chuckle. This man was certainly interesting, and I wanted to give him my full attention. "For someone calling me lonely, you seem to be sitting alone too," I pointed out, raising an eyebrow. "Well, I'm not anymore, am I?" he replied with that same infuriating smirk. "Smooth," I said, leaning back in my chair. "Do you always go around saving lonely strangers from their drinks?" "Only the ones who catch my eye," he teased. I chuckled and asked, "So, what's your story, mysterious stranger?" "Just trying to take a break from the usual chaos," he replied smoothly. Then with a wink he added, "By the way, I'm Caleb. Not so mysterious anymore." "Ezra," I said, offering my hand. "Seems like we're both running from something," I added with a dry chuckle. "So Ezra, why this bar of all places?" he asked. "I don't really know. Maybe I just like the crowd, or maybe I like the fact that people here usually leave me in peace," I grinned. "Well, I could leave you with your whiskey, but I believe I am much better company," he winked. I grinned. "I won't disagree with that." I couldn't tell if it was the alcohol or the man in front of me making my head spin. But Caleb had me completely captivated. He felt like a breath of fresh air, unlike anyone I'd ever met. Our conversation flowed effortlessly, filled with laughter and teasing, and I found myself drawn deeper into him. Then, out of nowhere, Caleb leaned in, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "So, Ezra, how about we make this night unforgettable?" I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Oh? And what exactly do you have in mind?" He grinned, that irresistible smirk of his stealing my breath. "First, let's get out of here." Without waiting for my reply, he took my hand and pulled me to my feet, his energy as infectious as ever. 1 hour later, Caleb dragged me from one adventure to the next, his infectious energy pulling me along. Our first step was a karaoke bar, where he somehow convinced me to grab the mic and sing with him. It was silly, unfiltered fun, the kind I hadn't had in years. His voice was surprisingly good, and we laughed until our sides hurt when I completely botched the lyrics to an upbeat classic. From there, we headed to a retro arcade, diving into a night filled with games and playful competition. Being with Caleb felt like breaking down all my barriers. For the first time in what felt like forever, I truly let go. With him, I felt free. "This is the most fun I've had in a long time," I said to Caleb as we sat on the rooftop of the hotel. "I told you, it's impossible to get bored with me," he replied with a smug smirk. "I'm far too charming." I laughed, the sound light and genuine. "You're too much, you know that." "Not for you," he quipped, flashing that irresistible grin before sliding an arm around me. "Now, look at this view." I turned my gaze to the city stretching out before us, its lights twinkling like stars, while the actual stars sparkled in the clear night sky above. It was breathtaking, the kind of moment that made everything else fade away. For a while we sat there in comfortable silence, soaking in the beauty around us, the quiet only broken by the faint hum of the city below. "Did you bring me here for stargazing?" I teased, glancing at Caleb with a playful smile. "Not exactly," he said, his voice low as he leaned in closer, his warm breath brushing against my skin. "You up for something even more fun?" I raised an eyebrow, my heart beating a little faster. "Haven't we already had enough fun for one night?" I replied softly, a hint of a challenge in my tone. "Who says it has to end?" he murmured, his lips hovering just a breath away from mine. "I don't want it to end either," I whispered, my voice barely audible before I closed the distance between us. The moment our lips met, everything else seemed to disappear. The kiss was deep, urgent, and electric, igniting a fire between us. Caleb's hands roamed my body with a mix of confidence and care, while mine found their way into his hair, pulling him even closer. "Want to take this somewhere more private?" Caleb whispered against my lips, his voice low and filled with intent. I didn't hesitate. I nodded, my pulse quickening, and in one smooth motion, he stood up, pulling me gently but firmly toward him. Without a word, he guided me through the hotel, our hands intertwined, the anticipation growing with every step. We reached his room, and as the door clicked shut behind us, the rest of the world seemed to vanish. Caleb's eyes locked with mine, a silent promise of what was to come. Flashback ends. Next morning. I woke up with a dull headache, the aftermath of alcohol, and the intensity of the night before. The bed beside me was empty. Caleb was gone. A pang of hurt hit me. Was it really just a meaningless hookup? Shaking the thought away, I freshened up, left the hotel, and resolved to move on. Back home, I buried myself in painting, letting the colors distract me. Then my phone buzzed and I froze. Caleb was calling. "Hey, Caleb, forget something?" I asked, trying to sound unaffected. "Yes, you," he replied, his voice serious. I hesitated. "Then why did you leave?" "There was an emergency," he said, regret heavy in his voice. "I should have told you, and I'm sorry." His sincerity tugged at me, but anger lingered. "Why call now?" "I felt something between us," he admitted, his voice raw. "Something I haven't felt in years." I sighed, conflicted. "It was one night, Caleb, that's all." "Maybe it was, but I want to see you again. Please," he said, his voice almost pleading. "Fine," I relented cautiously. "Give me time to think." "I'll wait," he promised softly. As the call ended, I sat there, confusion swirling inside me. Why did he affect me so deeply? Should I even give him a chance? It all felt too complicated, and I wasn't sure if I was ready. Next morning. I decided to meet Caleb today after spending the entire night thinking about him. He had affected me so deeply that I knew I had to see him, even if just once. I texted him and suggested a nearby restaurant, wanting a fresh start away from where it all began. Just then, Olivia called. "Hey, Ezra! How's my favorite artist?" she asked with her usual energy. I sighed. I was fine, until you called. She ignored my tone. "Great news! Remember Blue Youth? They're in our city!" I groaned. "I don't care about them, Olivia." "You're insane! The lead singer is so hot!" she gushed. "I think you care more about looks than music," I muttered. "Well, no one can resist Caleb Rivers' charm," she exclaimed. My heart stopped. Did you say Caleb? Yeah, Caleb Rivers, the lead singer, she teased. I hung up the call and quickly pulled up an internet search for Caleb Rivers. There he was, staring back at me through the screen. Caleb. My Caleb. The man I had met just a day before yesterday. The man I had spent an unforgettable night with. I had slept with a celebrity. And not just any celebrity. One of the most popular ones in the country. A cold wave of panic washed over me. How had I not recognized him? And why had he never mentioned it? A few hours later, Caleb had called me countless times and left dozens of messages, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. I couldn't understand why he hadn't told me the truth. I spent hours scouring the internet for anything about him. Most of it was positive, but a few comments hinted at less flattering stories. Frustrated, I ran a hand through my hair, unsure of what to do. Olivia would only offer gossip, so I dismissed that option. Then a name popped into my mind. Anthony Davis, an old high school friend now working in the music industry. Maybe he could help me figure things out. Hey Anthony, I said when he picked up. Ezra, long time, man, he said cheerfully. Yeah, I've been busy. You? Dealing with egotistical singers, he joked. I chuckled weakly. Ever worked with Caleb Rivers? Anthony paused. Not directly, but I've heard stories. Why? Actually, a friend of mine knows him and was asking if I wanted to meet him too. I quickly lied, trying to mask my real intentions. No man, don't bother, Anthony said, sounding almost like a warning. From what I know, he's a heartbreaker. What do you mean? I asked, my heart racing. He's got a reputation for too many flings, hookups, and flirting around. Even the few relationships he's had didn't last long. Bad-tempered, cheating, all that stuff. Anthony explained, his tone heavy with disdain. I heard everything in silence, my thoughts racing. There's no way it could be true. The man I met yesterday was the most wonderful person I had ever encountered. Yet my mind couldn't stop replaying how he had abandoned me. Ezra, you okay? Anthony asked. Yeah, I muttered. I'll call you later. As I hung up, my thoughts spiraled. What if Anthony was right? Why did I always end up finding the worst in the men I let into my life? What if Caleb was exactly what everyone said? Curling up on the couch, I felt tears stream down my face, the weight of it all crashing over me. Next day, I ignored all calls and messages from Caleb. I didn't want to talk to him, yet in my heart I longed to confront him, to ask if everything I had heard was true. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. I didn't want to see him as the heartbreaker the world claimed him to be. I wanted to remember him as the man who, even if only for one night, had mended my broken heart. I wanted to hold on to that, even if it meant facing the possibility of it all being a lie. Ezra, please, pick up my call! Caleb's message came through. I sighed, then replied, Why? His response was almost immediate, as though he had been waiting for me. I just want to know why you're ignoring me! I don't understand why you care. Wasn't I just one of your hookups? I replied, my words sharper than I intended. What? Why would you say that? Did you hear something? Caleb responded. Before I could reply, my phone rang again. It was him. I hesitated for a moment before picking up. Ezra, I don't know what you heard, but everything is a lie, Caleb said breathlessly as soon as I picked up. Really? Or have you been lying to me? You didn't even tell me who you were, and then you disappeared on me. Maybe there's more truth to those rumors, I shot back. Ezra, I wanted to tell you who I was, but we were having so much fun, and I thought the truth would end it all. Maybe you were the only one having fun, I replied harshly. Don't say that, please. I know we both felt something, he pleaded. Did we? Goodbye, Caleb. Don't call or text me again, I said and hung up the phone. As the silence engulfed me, a wave of loneliness washed over me, deeper and heavier than anything I'd felt in years. A few days later, I sat at my favorite bar, nursing a glass of whiskey. Tonight there was no anticipation, no hope, just me and my loneliness. Need some company? A voice called out. I turned sharply. It was Caleb. What are you doing here? I asked, surprised. You blocked me everywhere, he said quietly. This was the only place I could find you. Why? I asked coldly. You never gave me a chance to explain, he said, his voice tinged with sadness. I left the hotel because my agent warned me the press was coming. I had to protect both of our reputations. I scoffed. Pretty sure it was only your reputation you cared about. That's not true. The rumors would have hurt you more than me. I was trying to protect you, Caleb said, desperately. Right. Always the savior, I replied bitterly. It's true, Ezra. Those rumors, they're lies. Please believe me. How can I, Caleb? Everything you told me was a lie. I shot back, my voice shaking with anger. I didn't lie, he said softly. I just hid a few things. It's the same thing, I shouted. Just go. Please, leave. He stared at me for a moment, his lips parting to speak, but he stopped. He saw the pain in my eyes and understood. Without another word, he turned and walked away, leaving me alone with only my whiskey and heartbreak. 2 weeks later, I had blocked all calls and messages from Caleb, refusing to let my heart break any further. I had already been made a fool once. It wasn't going to happen again. These days I pour all my energy into my work, into my paintings. An art exhibition was coming up soon, and I was preparing hard for it, determined to focus on something that couldn't betray me. I was deep in thought, working on my latest piece when a loud knocking startled me. It was unexpected. Who would come by at this hour? Yes? I asked cautiously. Are you Ezra Mitchell? He asked politely, his voice unsure. Yes, what do you want? I replied neutrally. I'm from Caleb's band, can we talk? He asked, shifting nervously. Hearing Caleb's name stirred emotions I thought I had buried, but I masked it. Fine, come inside, I said, stepping aside. He entered, still uneasy, and I crossed my arms. What do you have to say? I'm Leo, Caleb's close friend. The rumors about him are false, he began. I grimaced. You came all this way here just to tell me that. Please, just listen, Leo pleaded. I sighed, nodding for him to continue. Go ahead. The rumors were spread by Caleb's former agent, Leo explained. Caleb fired him after finding out he was laundering money. The agent turned on him, spreading lies to ruin his reputation. Why didn't you stop it, I asked, shocked. We tried, Leo admitted, but the damage was done before we could stop it. I sat back, stunned, realizing how wrong I had been about Caleb. Did Caleb send you? No, Leo shook his head. He's in a bad place without you. I came because I couldn't watch him spiral. Thank you, I said quietly, feeling a wave of gratitude. After Leo left, I grabbed my phone, heart racing, and dialed Caleb's number. I told him to meet me at my favorite bar. It was time for answers, and perhaps a new beginning. Next day, I waited anxiously in the bar, glancing at the door every few seconds. What was taking Caleb so long? My mind raced, replaying everything Leo had said and what I wanted to say to Caleb. Then, I saw him. He looked a mess. His hair disheveled, his clothes slightly wrinkled. But the moment his eyes met mine, his face lit up with a smile. Ezra! He called, hurrying toward me. As he approached, I could tell he'd noticed the guilt written all over my face. I'm sorry, Caleb, I blurted out before he could say anything. I judged you wrong. I should have never believed those rumors. It's all right, he said softly, shrugging it off. No, it's not, I shook my head. I've always been in messy relationships with toxic men, and I was scared of ending up in another one. That fear made me believe the worst about you instead of giving you a chance. Caleb sighed, his expression filled with understanding. It's not your fault. Those rumors have followed me for years, but I was wrong too. I should have been honest with you from the start. I took a deep breath, summoning the courage to ask, do you think we could start over? His eyes softened, and a genuine smile spread across his face. Of course. I thought I'd never hear those words. A grin broke out on my face as I teased. Need some company? Caleb chuckled, leaning in close. Always. His lips brushed against mine, and soon we were kissing. Deeply, urgently. It felt like I'd been holding my breath for days, and now with him, I could finally breathe again. A week later, Caleb and I strolled through my art exhibition, hand in hand, chatting and laughing like the world outside didn't exist. The room buzzed with the quiet murmur of admiration from visitors, but my focus stayed on him. We'd been spending every possible moment together, making up for the time we had lost. So, what do you think? I asked, gesturing to the wall of paintings after giving him a full tour. "These are incredible, Ezra!" he exclaimed, eyes wide with genuine admiration. "I didn't know I was dating such a brilliant artist." "Not brilliant, just struggling," I replied sheepishly. Those words filled me with warmth. He stopped walking and turned to face me, his gaze intense. "You deserve all the recognition in the world, and I know you'll get it." I chuckled, brushing off the compliment. "Thanks. Maybe someday. So, which one's your favorite?" He studied the paintings again before pointing to a striking portrait in the corner. "That one. It's mysterious, alluring, and beautiful. All at once." I laughed, shaking my head. "That's because it's based on you. I painted it right after I met you." His jaw dropped slightly, and a smile broke across his face. "Wow, I can't believe my luck. I'm your muse." I grinned back. "Of course you are. What about me? Written any new songs about me yet?" "You'll just have to wait and see," he teased, a mischievous sparkle in his eye. "I can't wait," I said, my voice soft and full of happiness. For the first time in what felt like forever, everything felt right. 2 weeks later, I had come to see Caleb's band perform for the first time. The stage lights bathed him in a golden glow, making him look like the star he truly was. But to me, he wasn't just any singer. He was Caleb. My Caleb. We had decided to keep our relationship private, away from the flashing cameras and prying eyes. It was what we both needed. I wasn't ready to share my life with the world, and Caleb didn't want to feel more rumors or controversies about himself. This was ours. Just ours. A little while later, Caleb announced, "This song is called Canvas of You, and it's dedicated to a very special friend." I couldn't believe it. He had actually written a song about me. Our eyes met, and for a brief moment we shared a knowing smile. Then he began to sing, his voice beautiful and mesmerizing. The song was powerful, its lyrics tender and full of love, each note carrying a piece of his heart. The music swirled around us, and for a moment it was just him and me, the rest of the world fading away. I knew at that moment our connection was something deeper than I had ever imagined. A week later, we sat in Caleb's favorite cafe, sipping our coffee in a comfortable silence. Caleb had extended his stay, and we were now spending nearly every moment together. But rumors were affecting him and our relationship, and hence he was sitting in disguise, trying not to bring any attention. "So, if I asked you to join me on tour, would you?" Caleb suddenly asked. I paused, considering his question. Maybe. "I don't really want to leave my art career behind, though." "You don't have to. You could showcase your artwork at every stop," Caleb said, his eyes lighting up with enthusiasm. I grinned. "That's not a bad idea." "So, have those rumors stopped?" I asked cautiously. Caleb sighed. "No, actually it's the opposite. They've only gotten worse. I think someone saw us together once, and now everyone's speculating that I've got a new fling. They're even betting on how long it'll last." "I'm sorry," I said sincerely, feeling helpless for not being able to protect him from it. "It's alright," Caleb smiled at me. "I've dealt with rumors before. I'll handle this too." Suddenly we overheard a group of girls chatting nearby, their conversation abruptly catching our attention. "Did you hear about that famous singer?" one girl asked, her voice animated. "Yeah, you mean Caleb Rivers, right? I heard he's got a new fling," another replied, her tone dripping with curiosity. "I just don't get it," a third chimed in. "Why does he have so many fans when he's such a playboy?" "Well, that's because they're all obsessed with him," the first girl said with a scoff. "But honestly, I bet the guy he's with is just some side piece who sleeps around." "Exactly," the second one agreed. "I mean, he's probably no better, hopping between celebrities like that." "Well, it's not gonna last," the first girl scoffed, her tone full of disdain. "Do you know what they call him? A heartbreaker. Honestly, I think his hookup should ditch him already." Their laughter cut through the air like a knife. I glanced at Caleb, his jaw tightened, fingers clenched around his coffee cup. The spark in his eyes was gone, replaced by a brewing storm. "They don't know what they're talking about," I said firmly, taking his hand. Caleb forced a small smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "It's fine," he muttered, though his voice betrayed him. "So, what are we doing today?" I asked, trying to divert his mind, knowing Caleb always had some crazy plan in mind for fun. "Nothing," he replied. "Nothing?" I echoed, surprised. "Yeah, I just wanted a quiet evening," he shrugged, the sadness still lingering in his voice. I smiled, trying to lighten the mood. Well, that's a first. You're usually dragging me off to some insane adventure. I don't always, Caleb smirked. And you always enjoy those adventures. Caleb's eyes softened as he gazed at me, a rare moment of calm passing between us. I think sometimes it's good to just pause and appreciate the present. No rush, no distractions. I nodded, savoring the warmth of the coffee cup in my hands. I like that. Just being here with you feels perfect. A few days later, Caleb sat on the couch, his head in his hands, his phone glowing with notifications on the table. I hesitated in the doorway before sitting beside him. Caleb, is it the rumors again? I asked. He laughed bitterly, running a hand through his hair. It's always the rumors, but this time it's different. What do you mean? They're dragging you into it, he said, handing me his phone. My stomach twisted as I read the headline. Who's Caleb Rivers' mystery lover? Exclusive details inside. The article was cruel, filled with speculation about me, my career, my background, even photos of us together. This is insane! None of it's true, I said, my hands trembling. I know, Caleb said sharply, but people are harassing you. I didn't want you to see the comments. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, hurt. I wanted to protect you, he said softly, but I can't. The more they see us together, the worse it gets. So what? Are you saying we should stop seeing each other? I asked, pacing. No, Caleb said abruptly. That's the last thing I want, but I hate seeing you hurt because of me. I stepped closer, taking his hands. We'll face this together. Let them talk. None of it matters as long as we know the truth. Caleb searched my eyes before nodding, doubt still lingering. I just don't want to lose you, Ezra. You won't, I said firmly. But trust me to handle this too. We're in this together. He pulled me into his arms, holding me tightly. I don't deserve you, he whispered. And yet here I am, I murmured against his chest. For now it was enough, but we both knew the fight was far from over. 2 weeks later, Caleb and I were lounging in my living room, enjoying each other's company when I suddenly asked, So why did you guys name your band Blue Youth? Caleb shrugged. Not sure. But Leo wanted blue because it reflected our lives at the time. Cold and sad. And youth represents young people. I chuckled. Sounds like Leo. But now I kinda like it. It means more. Peace, calm, freedom, Caleb said, his eyes softening. I agree, I said, leaning in for a quick kiss. Just then, Caleb's phone buzzed with notifications. Ignoring his protest, I grabbed it and scanned the screen. My heart sank at the flood of hateful comments and threats, calling Caleb a manipulative celebrity and mocking me as a gold digger. The worst were the threats. Warnings for Caleb to leave the band or else and to hide his face. Some even implied I wasn't safe with him. This is going too far, I muttered, anger rising in me. I wish we could do something. Caleb sighed. Yeah, I wish. Well, what did your bandmates say? I asked. They said to ignore it, that it's all smoke, he replied. But how long? You've been dealing with this forever, I said, frustration creeping in. What can we do? Caleb murmured, defeated. I don't know, I whispered. But I'm not going anywhere. We'll fight this together. Maybe we need to take a different route, he hesitated. Maybe we should break up. Maybe I'm not good for you, Ezra. His words hit like a punch. Don't do this, I said, my voice shaking. Caleb's eyes filled with pain. I don't want to, but I don't know how to stop the world from tearing us apart. What are you saying? I'm not leaving you! I shouted, the frustration breaking through. I know, he whispered, but I'm scared. Caleb, I said softly, hoping he'd turn back, but he kept walking toward the door, leaving me standing there. A heavy silence hung between us, the weight of it more suffocating than any argument. The space between us felt like an ocean, and all of it, every inch, was filled with those damn rumors. 2 days later, I walked into Caleb's house with a sense of defiance. Today I was going to talk to him, no more avoiding it. There was no way I was going to let rumors tear us apart. We needed to face this, together. Caleb sat at the kitchen table, head in his hands, staring blankly at his phone. The weight of the past few days was heavy on him, and it was clear the rumors had worn him down. I can't do this anymore, he muttered, looking up. I'm tired of being dragged through the mud. His voice was hollow, defeated. I stepped closer, my heart aching. Caleb, it's not your fault. They're just looking for something to tear you down. He met my eyes, exhaustion clouding his expression. It feels like it'll never stop. It's not just me anymore. It's you too. I placed a hand on his shoulder. We'll get through this. We'll handle it together. The weight of it all pressed down on both of us, suffocating us with lies, judgments, and cruelty. Then an idea sparked in my mind. It was risky, but maybe it was the only way to stop this. Caleb, we can make our relationship public, I said, my voice steady. What? Are you crazy? That'll put both of us in jeopardy. People will judge us non-stop, he exclaimed. Maybe, maybe not. We have to take this chance, I urged, looking him in the eye. But what about you? It could destroy your life, he said, still unsure. Not more than it's already destroying our lives now. I want both of us to be happy and fearless, I said firmly. Are you sure? Caleb asked, concern in his voice. Yes. I've made up my mind, I replied confidently, holding his gaze. I didn't care about people's opinions anymore. All I cared about was Caleb. He deserved happiness, and I was willing to do anything for it. A week later, I was having another art exhibition and Caleb was right there by my side. More people had come to appreciate my work, and I couldn't help but smile at the sight. Caleb's words had come true. I was finally on the route to becoming a famous artist, something I had once only dreamed of. All of this happened because of our decision to make our relationship public. The day we shared our truth on social media, I feared the worst, but to my surprise, Caleb's fans had showered us with love and support. They celebrated our love, and the rumors that had once haunted us began to slowly fade into the background. Oh my! Look, it's Caleb and Ezra, the famous couple! You look so cute together! A girl exclaimed, running toward us. Can we please have your autographs? She asked, her excitement evident. Of course, we both responded in unison. After she left, I turned to Caleb and smiled. Seems like everything turned out for the best. Yes, I should have always trusted you, he said, his voice warm with sincerity. Well, I knew our love would overcome all, I replied with a grin. Caleb chuckled. That's such a cheesy line. Maybe, but it's true, I said, my voice full of sincerity. I love you, Caleb. I love you too, Ezra. And I can't wait to spend the rest of our lives together, going on a new adventure every day, Caleb replied, his eyes reflecting his deep affection for me. I chuckled softly and leaned in to kiss Caleb. He kissed me back deeply. There was no place for fear anymore. Our love had overcome everything, and we were finally free to be ourselves, without hesitation or doubt. In that moment, I felt like nothing else mattered. Just Caleb and me, together. His kiss was full of promise, and I knew that no matter what challenges we faced in the future, we would face them together, stronger than ever. Conclusion. I started accompanying Caleb on his tour, and it felt like everything I had dreamed of. While Caleb performed in his music concerts, I showcased my artwork in exhibitions around the world. As Caleb's band's popularity soared, so did mine, and we both found ourselves caught in a whirlwind of success, admiration, and new opportunities. But nothing compared to the joy I found in the simple moments with Caleb. Each day felt like an adventure, whether exploring a new city or enjoying a quiet evening together. Caleb's optimism and fun-loving nature never changed. Looking back, our journey hadn't been perfect, but it was filled with shared memories and dreams coming true. No matter what the future held, as long as we had each other, that was all I needed. The end. Have you ever met a celebrity crush? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force and stay wholesome!